remember watching you when I was 10-year-old. It takes me right back, but it's fantastic. Thanks for joining us. I've got a wee summary here, Terry, just to sort of summarise for anybody watching. So 77 times capped England defender, played at 3 World Cups, won a UEFA Cup with Ipswich, numerous trophies with Rangers, long career as a manager as well, and you're a 3 times Hall of Famer, is that right? Ipswich, Rangers and England as well.
And Scotland as well, that's 4.
And Scotland as well, aye, that's right, aye, because it was in Scotland. Was that this was like assistant or someone you'd done the wee spell as well, eh?
I was assistant with George, yes, yeah, right. Back in the day, it was a great experience when you train with the best players of the country, and there were some really good players at Scotland at the time. It's just a dream come true, because you put on functions and they do them and they want more all the time. It's just crazy, it's just surreal, but it was a great experience, although I'd rather be sort of assistant manager to the England manager rather than Scotland manager. But George Burley was adamant that he wanted me, and I thought, well, I'll try and help him out. So didn't bring him much luck, so there we go.
Okay, still another experience, eh? But if we can just go right back to your youth, please, Terry. So I believe your dad was in the Navy. You were actually born in Singapore, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah, he was on duty out there, and my mum and dad went out a couple of years before I was born, and they loved it out there. They had a maid or a helper that would come in daily, and she ended up looking after me when I was there. We left when I was 2 years old, but I can't remember a single thing about it. But I've been back since. Me and my wife Rita have been back, and we got the address, and we had a look at the building and all that sort of thing. It was in a lovely little area. Singapore is lovely, so yeah, really? I could have played for Singapore now if I'd grown up out there, but there's no chance. Imagine
him in the caps you would have had. Right. Am I right in saying that? Because I had a previous guest on, right, and I think he's related, either a cousin or a half cousin of yourself, Pat Nevin.
Pat Nevin, yeah. You would never think it that he was related to me, because he's a dwarf really compared to me. And he's got all these socialist views and everything else. Like I would read the Telegraph and he would read the Guardian, and he was a winger, and wingers can be like wizards, can't they? They can be, they seclude themselves and not much. They don't talk a lot, although Pat does, but they don't talk, all these kind of things. So he's a complete opposite. He would never play centre half because he's so short, and I would never play on the wing because I was so slow. But funnily enough, we are related, but I think it's very distant. But and he never stops telling me that as well.
Yeah, that's right. Because when I was chatting with him, I think it caught him unaware. I says to him, I says, "Oh yeah," and he spoke very highly of you, but he was the exact same. He says, "We couldn't be in a different kind of football players."
No. It's bizarre.
It's a strange one. But you joined Ipswich. Now this was in 1976, I believe. But you also had a wee trial at Norwich. Is that right?
Yeah, it's a black spot in my career really, going to Norwich, because I hated Norwich. It's like Rangers fans, having a trial for Celtic. It was just exactly the same. I had to wear the kit. I had to wear the horrible yellow kit and go and play in the trial match, and I was hopeless. I tried to play the worst I could because I hated Norwich. It's a big derby. It's about 40 miles apart, so it's not a local derby, but it's a derby nonetheless, and we don't like each other very much. So yeah, so hopefully you'll gloss over that very quickly.
I actually seen a clip of you wiping out Chris Sutton, who played with Norwich years later as well. I seen that. I think that was on one of the sports programmes you were doing at the time.
Yeah. Well, Chris was like the opposite to me. He played for Norwich, obviously, which I don't like, I hate, and then he played for Celtic, which I don't like at all. So it was, but we got on really well because he's quite funny. I know what he's like. He winds people up, and he has a go. And I did a pre-show session on the pitch at Hearts. We were going to commentate on the game, in the evening game, and we went there early on. And I think Chris Boyd had scored a goal where he waltzed through about 4 or 5 defenders and put it in. So we tried to replicate that. And he went past me. I let him pass me, and then he scored and all that sort of thing. And then the producer said, "Look, we'll do it again, but this time I want you to take him out." And so I thought, well, yeah, that's much better than before. So he came waltzing down, and he went try to go past me, and I just stiff armed him, and he knocked him to the floor. And I think it hurt him. So yeah, I was very proud of that.
It's funny though, all those years later, how you still, the two of you have got it in you that you want to, get one over each other all the time.
Yeah, good, all the time. Yeah.
So in 1976, you made your debut against Everton, and that was in the 15th April, I believe. Can you take yourself back?
78. 78
was your debut. Sorry, 76 was when you actually.
Was when I signed. Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, how did that feel? And can you take yourself right back to that?
Well, I mean, I was a big Ipswich fan all my life, and just to go and train there and be part of the squad was just unbelievable. And then to eventually make it as a player and make your debut, it was on Match of the Day as well, because there was only one game on Match of the Day in those years, and it was at Everton away. And my mum and dad drove up, and Bobby Robson got them tickets in the director's box, and it's surreal, because you imagine playing for the first team when you join the club, but you don't actually realise how long it would take, or if you could make it. There's just always big questions, and there were a lot of people ahead of me. But Bobby told us before on the Friday that I was going to make my debut. We flew up, believe it or not, in those days on two jets, because we couldn't afford the one jet. We were on two jets to Liverpool, and ended up playing the game, and we lost 1-0. Bob Latchford got a penalty and he put that away. And then we flew back down, and I was able to go into the pub and watch myself on television, which was even more surreal. But what a day that was.
It's so different back then, eh? I mean, I talk to a lot of football players, and you've got the social media aspect, everything now, and you had a wee bit more freedom, eh? And I can remember it well. See, down there at the time, I always tap into like Scottish connections, but you're John Wark, George Burley, and Alan Brazil. I mean, really looking at this, when you joined Ipswich, you joined them at the perfect time, and then you left them just as they were coming back down again, eh? But I mean, some of the times that you had there, I mean, what was Alan Brazil like? Did you play many games alongside Brazil?
Well, he was a lot thinner than he is now. That's for sure. He was great. I mean, it was him, Alan, Russell Osman, who went on to play for England as well, my best friend. And the three of us joined at that time in '76, and we came through the youth team together. And Alan was prolific at youth team level, scored 40 goals in that season. We won the league, playing against some really good players that eventually grew up to be internationals as well. So it was a very competitive league, but it was great, because we were just mates, just the three of us, and we got into the first team together, and it was brilliant. But we were part of a big conveyor belt of youngsters coming through from Scotland as well, from Cumbria, from Newcastle, or local boys and things like this from London. It was a great scouting system that Bobby put in place, and that helped us well, because we had a team of full internationals, virtually every country, not so much the countries in Europe, but England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. It was just a team full of internationals. And going into the dressing room, when you're seeing all these guys, it was just incredible. They were, superstars, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the standard there, and I mean, what Bobby Robson put in there, eh? I mean, he's won the 1981 UEFA Cup as well, eh? I mean, can you take yourself back there? These brilliant times, eh? I mean, that must be amazing to win that for the team that you grew up supporting.
Well, Bobby was right. Bobby built a lot of teams and then dismantled them and then built them again. He had a long contract with them, and he kept on winning and kept on producing international players. He won the FA Cup in 1978. I played in a couple of games before the final, but went there as a supporter, part of the team, part of the club. And to see Ipswich, my team, win the FA Cup at Wembley was just a dream come true. Okay, I didn't play in it, but it was just lovely to see. And I knew all the lads, obviously, and it was just a lovely feeling around the club. And then he dismantled that team very quickly and built the UEFA Cup team for '81. And he brought in two Dutchmen who were just fantastic people, great gentlemen, but brilliant footballers. And our system changed, and he changed that system. And we had the one man, Eric Gates, is playing off Alan Brazil and Paul Mariner, who was a hell of a centre forward. He's passed away now. But what a great guy as well. And we were very tight as a team. We had a very small squad, only one substitute in those days, believe it or not, just one. It's amazing. And he built the team, and we went on to win it. We were one of the best teams in Europe, if not the best. And it was just sensational. We were 20, 21, 22 unbeaten runs, unbeaten games. in the old First Division, which is now obviously the Premier League. But it was an incredible time, a roller coaster ride, and the whole three of us just came together.
Yep, and I mean, and you were living the dream there. I mean, you were playing with your boyhood cup. You've watched them win the FA Cup, and then you went on to create things yourself. I mean, you got Player of the Year. I've got here 1985-86, prior to you obviously leaving the year later as well. It must have been, I mean, 10 years there. You're a Hall of Famer down there. It must be fantastic.
Yeah, it was strange because after 1982, it was the Spain World Cup, and I was fortunate enough to get into the squad to go there. But Bobby Robson left after England. We got knocked out of the World Cup. But Bobby Robson became the England manager, and then Arnold Muren, the Dutchman, he left for Manchester United. He was a brilliant player, lovely left foot, and he had a great career there. And then all of it, we'd built this stand in the hope to get more supporters into the club, into the ground. And we had the big payments on the stand. It wasn't a wealthy club. There were no, American millionaires or billionaires or hedge funds or trust funds coming in. No, none of that in those days. So we had to pay a lot of money, and unfortunately, players had to be sacrificed to sustain the payments on that stand. And I was one of the last ones to leave, and I left in '86. We got relegated then because the players that we had, full internationals and players that had played in World Cups, they left, and gradually, the standard of the team just fell away because the club couldn't afford to buy suitable replacements. So I was one of the last people, and I didn't want to go when I was in '86 when we got relegated. I had just signed a 4-year contract a year before that, and I was a captain of the club and a supporter of the club, and I wanted to take them back up again and be part of that rebuilding process. But unfortunately, I had to go. They desperate to sell me and desperate for the money. So that was when Graham Souness came in.
That's right. I mean, you moved to Rangers. I mean, that was 725,000 I've got down here. You moved, and like you said, that was during what they call the Souness Revolution. But I mean, what was that whole experience coming up from England? Seeing obviously what Rangers, Ibrox, everything that offered, and what Scotland as a country. I mean, was it hard to adapt, or was it something you just bought into right away?
Well, initially there was the revolution. Colin West came up first, and then Chris Woods. And Chris Woods was with us when we played '86 World Cup out in Mexico. Yeah. So I was grilling Chris. I didn't room with Chris at that time, but I did later on. Obviously, as Rangers teammates. But I was, we're talking about what Souness had in mind, his plans and everything else like that, and it sounded really exciting. And I knew that I had to go. But I was thinking about Manchester United coming in. They'd spoken to me for 3 years about being, their signing, and Ron Atkinson and Brian Robson and all these people. And I thought that was going to be my next move, but they never came in. And Graham came in and said, look, I want you to come up. And I played against Graham many times, and he was a hard opponent. I mean, he was steel. He really he looked after himself. He was nasty. Yeah, and his debut, he was nasty. But he taught me. He said, just try it. And he come and picked me up at the airport when I came back, and we flew up, and it was like a whirlwind, really. And I thought, well, yeah, let's give this a go. My wife Rita was more keen than I was because she'd talked to Chris Wood's wife, and she knew about it, and she thought, well, it's going to be a complete break. And I'd been to Ibrox before in a testimonial match a few years earlier, and we had all the banter from George Burley, Hannah Brazil, who obviously wasn't on the wrong side of the city of Glasgow, and Johnny Walk, who was a real passionate, still is, Rangers fan. So, and I had Alan Hunter, who came from Coleraine in Northern Ireland, and he was a big Rangers man as well. And I just you get these feelings. You just think, to hell with it, let's have a go. Let's have a go at it. And I know that there was there still is a big rivalry between England and Scotland, but I thought, well, I'm a big enough character. I think I can handle myself. So let's give it a go. And it was just an incredible experience, I have to say. I mean, I never thought I would ever do something like that, but it was one of the best, if not the best thing I've ever done.
And I also believe that this was around about the time that the English teams are banned for European football. So although you had to leave Ipswich in other circumstances, you were still able to get that sort of slight reward back, being able to play in European football, be on a big stage. And the level of players that Rangers were bringing at the time was frightening, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. But and remember, with Ipswich, we played in Europe 11 years, and on the trot, we were just, we always finished in the top
Yeah,
six
that's
or
right.
top four or whatever it was at the time. And we had great consistency. And then with the 85 Heysel, we obviously banned, everybody was banned from Europe. But the actual expulsion from Europe wasn't a major factor for me coming to Scotland. I mean, I wasn't bothered about the European thing. I was just concerned about the bread and butter games, the league games, the ins and outs, and where do we live and what do we do and all that sort of thing. Because it is a different country, and it is, you are playing in a different environment, which is it's a big change for Suffolk. I mean, Suffolk is a very sleepy sort of county, and it's very dry, and it's got good weather. I mean, you're going to the complete opposite when you go to Scotland, and it's the well, how will they take me and what will they do? But we said we'd have a go, and it was a hit right from the word go. We went to Helensburgh first, and then we ended up in Bridge of Allan, which is a lovely place to live, and it just got better and better.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I mean, can I ask, right? See, if I was sort of coming in from an outside point of view, and then the build up to like a Rangers Celtic game. I mean, what was that like in comparison to some other games and everything, like you say, that surrounds it with the rivalry?
Yeah. Well, I had the English press come up. Nearly all the English press boys came up because obviously we knew them because we travelled with them many times and been to World Cups with them. Because they came on the same plane and they did all. They were mixing, and you could talk to them, and it was brilliant relationship. You would never get that today. It's complete opposite today. But
So,
they came up and saw the first game at Ibrox, and we won 1-0. Ian Durant scored the goal. It was a lovely reverse pass by David Cooper, and we won 1-0. And I met them all the press boys in the foyer reception area at Rangers, which is a magnificent place. Anyway, they were just awestruck. They couldn't believe it, and then they actually said to me that we understand why you wanted to come up. Games like these are just unique. It's the best derby match in the world. It's intense. It's everything that you want it to be, and it was it was a change up. It was a big step up from the normal league games we had in the SPL or wherever it was at the time, but it was just this magical moment because you couldn't speak to people 4 or 5 yards away from you. They couldn't hear you. The noise was just intense. The whole atmosphere was brilliant. And obviously, when you win, it's incredible. When you lose, it's like the end. It's like the end of the world. So yeah, it's just a unique occasion. It really is.
I'm loving that, and then party it. I'm looking back now, it's brilliant. I mean, another rival Rangers is Aberdeen. You scored against Aberdeen your first season. That was the winning goal to win Rangers our league for the first time since 1978. Was it?
Yeah, we didn't win the game. We drew 1-1, and just like the first game we had against Hibs of that season, when Graham Souness got himself sent off. He was sent off in that game as well, and he was the one before the game saying, "Right, lads, you got to keep cool heads. You must make sure that you don't play the occasion. You're playing the game." And blah 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 and all that sort of thing. And after 20 minutes, I think he lost his head and he smacked Brian Irvine and he got sent off. And we were like, "Oh my God," because we knew Celtic were playing Falkirk at home at that time, and you expected them to win the game quite comfortably. Yeah. So we were thinking, "Oh no, if we lose the game, then Celtic are going to get closer." So, and I think something like that was good for us in that situation because it is a hostile atmosphere. The Aberdeen fans are very passionate and intense. So you had to sort of really knuckle down and work together, and everybody stuck together, which we did. And getting the goal in that first half was great for us because that gave us something to defend. And it was just a lot of Rangers fans always remember that goal. And I do as well, very fondly. The hairs on the back of my neck stand up because it's David Cooper, who's obviously not with us now. He made the pass. He saw me make the run. I had Brian Irvine behind me, and I just nipped in front of him, and it's a great ball in. And all I had to do is just really redirect it. I didn't have to get any power. I just redirected it into the net, and then when I scored, I didn't know what to do, so I ran behind the goal, which was the opposite end to the beach end, which is where the Rangers fans were. But all these Rangers fans just popped up like meerkats in the crowd. So that obviously the Aberdeen fans had sold them their tickets, but they just popped up. And all these Rangers fans popped up, and it was an incredible feeling. Ian Durant jumped on my back, not for the last time that day, of course, but he jumped up on my back, and wow, the celebrations lasted a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But it was great. We didn't hold on to the lead. We drew the game, but we knew that Celtic had lost to Falkirk with 5 minutes to go. The game was over. We had still had 5 minutes left, so we just played the game out. And it was the cause then was not to lose the game, just keep us at 1-1. And we've done very well. And that was what happened. And it was bedlam after that. I think that was the last time I was sober for about a week.
Brilliant. I was speaking to a previous guest, I think, catch you on the hop here, but I was speaking to Red Card Roy McDonough. You know him?
Who?
Red Card Roy McDonough.
Oh, Roy McDonough, yes.
I was speaking to him. He was saying that
I know Roy.
He said he's had a few pints with you as well.
Yeah.
A legend. Brilliant.
Yeah, we've been to several golf days together, and he was great. He played for Colchester near us, and he's a lovely guy. I mean, when you're in that atmosphere, they're not so much people like Roy and other players. They're not so much rivals. They have a common cause because they've been through what you've been through. Perhaps not different levels, but they've actually had to stand up and be counted and get out there and perform in front of crowds, in front of all the pressure and responsibility, etc. And it is a unique sort of environment, but we appreciate each other. There's a lot of respect.
Yeah, proper honest football players. Yeah, that's it. I mean, Roy said the exact same. It was in regard to yourself, but you had a really dark time as well with Rangers a year after you broke your leg. I mean, and a leg breaks back then. I mean, it wasn't something that you'd be out for X amount of weeks. You were months, 9 months.
Yeah.
I mean, how did that feel having to watch for the sidelines? And obviously, Rangers never won the league that season, and there was always a lot of talk saying if Terry Butcher was fit and things. But
it was. Alec McLeish put his foot out to try and block my shot early in the game against Aberdeen, and I hit the shot over the bar, which is a normal for a centre half and normal for me. But I followed through sort of thing onto his foot and kicked through his studs and with my shin and when tibia, and it broke. The fibula didn't break. It would have been better if the other bone had broken because then you sort of a balance and it heals quicker. But it didn't heal. This was I think there's something like the 17th of November. And the bone never healed enough for me to try and play in the European Championships for England that next season. So in what, 88. So I was desperate to make the squad for the European Championships, but I just couldn't do it. And I was told by the doctors in Glasgow, then Rangers doctors, that you have to sit this one out. And I was devastated, but it was actually a good one to miss because England lost all 3 games. So therefore, my career as a centre half was enhanced. So if you don't play, you can't have a bad one, sort of thing. So yeah, that was lucky.
I'm sure 88 was that.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. I never played in a European Championship, which I'm disappointed about. But at the end of the day, it was about my career, particularly at Rangers and with England in the next couple of years after that.
Mm-hmm. Right, so you came back strong. You actually played in an Old Firm game that you've talked about loads, but I mean, it needs to be mentioned. Is the 1988 Old Firm game ended in a court case, and still to this day, I can't see what you've done wrong. I still can't see you ended up with the final.
Well, 87. It was 17th of October, 87.
Yeah,
these things stick in my mind, So, yeah, it was. Yeah. We didn't have that same unity, that same cohesion in the season 87, 88. We never had that as we did the previous season when we won the title and the League Cup. So there was just something missing there before my leg break, and then we got into the next season. That no, here we are on that season 87, and it was one of those ones where. We started the season poorly. We're desperate to beat Celtic at home, in particular, and then it all just kicked off. I mean, out of nothing came the clash with McAvenny and Chris Woods, and then I stepped in, and I think I pushed McAvenny about 30 yards or something like that. Just a nice, gentle push. And then Graham Roberts came in and did something. I think he might have just hit him or whatever, and then he went to the it was just mayhem, and it was. It was one of those games where you sort of you had no control over it. You didn't know what was going to happen, and then eventually I got a yellow card for the push, and the other two, Chris Woods and McAvenny, sent off. So it was you had to get on with it. Both teams down to 10 men. Robbo was in goal. I think Big Slim came alongside me as a centre half, and it was just end to end stuff. We just couldn't get going. We lost a goal. I scored an own goal, I think it was over Robbo.
It.
And yeah, and then we were 2-0 down and facing an uphill battle. But the boys battled back, and we got one back. And then I got another booking. I had a clash with, I think, Alan McKnight, the Celtic goalkeeper, and I don't know why I got another yellow card for that, because our legs had tangled, and you sort of trying to get out, and you end up sort of making contact with each other, and then he went down holding his face, and I was like, well, I never touched your face. But then the referee came in and gave me another yellow card. So, but I've been sent off before, it's never been a problem, but it was huge with Rangers, because you have that responsibility with Rangers for not just the fans in Scotland or at the ground or in Scotland, but worldwide, because it's just, they have an unbelievable following worldwide, like Celtic do. They're just unique clubs. So he absolutely distraught and gutted. I had to go into the bath. I ended up going into the bath and just sitting there. Obviously we were behind. The game was, the clock was ticking. The game was drawing out, and then all of a sudden I just heard this noise, and I thought it sounded like an aircraft just taking off. When you're in an airport, lounge or something, and then you just hear this roar, and it was just, what the hell is that? And then all of a sudden the boys come running in, and they're drawn 2-2 incredibly. And I was, wow, but I was still devastated, and I don't know, I was like, well, what am I going to do now, sort of thing. But Graham Souness came into the bathroom and just said to me, look, you're the captain of Rangers Football Club. You've got to show an example here. You've got to be brave, and you've got to be strong, and you've got to get the lads together, and you've got to get yourself together. And I've got every confidence that you can do that. It was a lovely pep talk. It was really nice. Yeah. And it made me feel 10 feet tall. And then a few months later, I was lower than a snake's belly, because we got charged with a breach of the peace. So I went from one extreme to the other.
Outrageous, eh? I mean, that's when you look now, you imagine football with VAR. How would you get on with VAR, firstly, right? Because I was going to mention VAR. As a centre-back, you played in massive games, and you had a few decisions went against you, as it happens in football, but high-profile ones. I mean, how do you wish you had VAR, or are you glad you never had it?
No, I'm glad I never had it. I hate it. It's an absolute waste of time. It's a horrible. I mean, I've been to games where, I've been to Ipswich where they when they were in the Premier League, and honestly, the experience I had was not so much watching Ipswich. I wasn't, we lost a lot of games, but the VAR sort of situation, you don't know when to celebrate. You don't know, can you celebrate, or do you celebrate? And then you're like, well, when you do, the goal is given to you. You then, but you don't never celebrate as much as you would spontaneously, and that's why I like that. Well, that's why I like the Championship. I like that. I like that sort of instant celebration. We've had this all our lives, that instant celebration, and it's just muted, because you don't know what's going to happen, and they take so long, and they get it wrong. It's an incredibly different or difficult game, sport, to actually have that black and white decision. Like they have in tennis, they have in cricket, they have in rugby union and rugby league, and all these sort of things. It's clear cut, but the offside rule in particular is an absolute nightmare now, along with the handball, along with all the other decisions. So I don't envy the referees. I hate VAR. I'd hope they get rid of it, but I don't think that's going to happen, because they've spent too much money on it.
Exactly, and that's the way football's going now. I mean, obviously the money controls everything, and we'll not get into that. It's a longer debate. But can we look back just at your time at Rangers? And I want to mention some of my guests, right? My previous guests, and if you could just give a wee nod to them. So you mentioned son, for everybody watching, Dave McPherson. Yeah, I'm actually meeting up with a few of these. We're going to the Ursa convention the end of September over in Lanzarote. You ever been to that?
No.
Fantastic experience. So Dave McPherson, how did you? I mean, he was Rangers through and through as well, wasn't
he? Yeah, he's 6'4" like me, a bit quicker than me, but then everybody else was. He was he played right back to start with, but he was really a centre half. Him and Jimmy Nicholl sort of alternated out there on the right hand side. But Slim was great. He was quick, he good feet, good in the air, aggressive. Yeah, lovely guy. I mean, really, really nice guy. We used to meet up after games sometimes, and you could meet up with anybody, any of the lads, because we got on so well. And that was the thing I think that Graham Souness wanted, especially for me as a captain before. You make it a great atmosphere and a great place to come into work and enjoy it, enjoy being together. But just you got to knit the squad together. If you knit the squad together right, you know that can win you games out of nothing really, because that spirit will get you through, and that's what we tried to foster at Rangers. But Slim was a big part of that. I mean, he was just a big lad, so if he said do something, he did it.
I think he came through Rangers around about the same time in the academy, around about as Billy Davies as well. I'm sure he came through. Billy ended up going to England and then coming back up in different. But yeah, that's right. There was a good structure of players coming through at the time as well.
There was, and the thing about coming through the academy. I mean, I only had 1 year at Ipswich in what wasn't, but what we're talking about is the academy then. But I had a year there, and you did your jobs, and you learned the discipline, and you learned what was expected of you, and all that. It is good. People coming in from other clubs and all that sort of thing later on, they have to get to know that pretty quick, because that's the fundamental sort of platform of you as a Rangers player. I would imagine the same would be at Celtic, but from Rangers' point of view, there's a lot of people will be looking at you, a lot more people than normal at other clubs, and looking at you as a graduate from Rangers, because you're one of our own, as the fans would say, but you've got probably more responsibility, and people look at you and say you've got to lead as well, and be one of the top players, which is difficult at times, but that's the responsibility you have. And Slim and Ali Dawson and all these people just took it on board, and it was great. And they would tell you about Rangers and about the different grounds and different people and the history and all that sort of thing as well. And plus the fact you had a lot of ex-Rangers players coming in for lunch and all these people. I never knew a lot of them, but I got to know them, and they were just incredible people. They knew all about the history of the club, and that was really important. The trophy room, you got to put trophies in there, and it was just unbelievable. I came from a club that was winning things, but not in the same capacity as Rangers, and not for so long. So yeah, it made you humble, but also made you determined that you weren't going to let them down, and you're going to play your part.
We definitely never let anyone else down, Terry. But can I tap into another one, a player, right, whose career was cruelly brought to an end, but and he's had a tough time at it, but he's got through it all. But with Scott Nisbet, very highly. He says he was learning so much off you at the time, and then I mean, he said it was so difficult though to get into the team. He says because you had at one point in his career, you had the Scotland captain and England captain, and he was trying to break through with Rangers, but he was brilliant for Rangers as well, wasn't he?
He was, yeah. I mean, like you say, he was in an environment that was tough, but also he learned. You could learn a lot, and he did. But it was tough for him. I mean, Ali Dawson was one that was there first. We won the League Cup in '86, and then you had Slim, then you had me, then you had Graham Roberts, then you had Richard Gough, and you had John Brown. He's all internationals. It's just incredible. Yeah, but it's incredible. Signing a lot of the English players as well. But for someone that like Scott coming through, Gary McSwegan as well was a big teammate of his. It was tough for them because it was difficult to get into the team. But if they could get into the squad, and the thing about Rangers as well, you had the away dressing room because we changed at Ibrox. There was no Murray Park and all that. So we were in the home team dressing room, and the others, the younger boys particularly, were in the away dressing room further down the corridor. And it was difficult to mix. You used to mix for lunch and all that sort of thing. But your aim as a young player was to get out of the away dressing room and come with the big boys sort of thing in the home dressing room, and that was their aim. And it was great to welcome them in, but that was a fierce environment. The Rangers dressing room, my God, like the home dressing room, that was fierce. You had people like McCoy and Durant, and you had David Cooper and all that. Yeah,
Ian Ferguson as well.
Fergie, yeah. I mean, Fergie came over. Yeah, he was. he had to be initiated, and he had to be learned what it's like to be in this squad, you know. And because he didn't drink when he came into the club. He'd won the cup in '87 with St Mirren, and he's a good young boy, good player, box to box, strong, great shot, scores goal. You know, he had the lot, and he came in, and he was quite mild mannered and weak and all that sort of thing. But wow, when I left in particular, he was brilliant. He was one of the guys. He was into spirits then, I think it was, rather than beer, or rather than the teetotal as he was before. So we taught him how to drink a little bit, and he took that on board. But he was just incredible. These are stars and people that came in, but for us, they were just great friends and individuals. But you know, people that you could trust, people that you knew. And when I always say, if you play against somebody, you know, do you like playing against them, or do you like playing with them? You know, in the same team. And you always say, right, I want to play with them, because no, sorry, I want to.
Yeah.
If they're bad, you want to play against them. If they're really good, you want to play with them alongside you. And Fergie, as soon as he came in, we knew what he could do, and we saw him, and wow, he was just incredible. And I went out to Australia to manage Sydney FC, and he was out there, and he lived out there, and we had a few drinks and a few restaurant visits. I can tell you that it was great.
I done a recording with him. I think I was up at about 2 a.m, and
Yeah.
it was fantastic. Like you see, he was over in Australia. He sat for over an hour, and he said that he would refuse to go into this trophy room until he actually collected, like, I think it was either a league title or a treble or something. He wouldn't go in until just his mentality was mental.
Yeah, it was mental. Yeah, he could be mental. He wasn't when he first came to us, but he soon learned how to be mental. Yeah, but I think he saw it, and you all want to play a part. You all want to, you know, put trophies in. You all want to be a fundamental part of the club, and people knew who you were, you could rely on. So yeah, he was great. And okay, he didn't do he didn't graduate from the academy or from the younger players, but when he came in, he still was a younger player, really willing to learn, and he wanted to learn. He just because they won the cup in '87 with St Mirren, he didn't sit on his laurels. He didn't say, no, I've done my bit. He wanted to get trophies for Rangers Football Club.
I'm sure Man United were in for him as well, and he was like, "No, I'm going to Rangers." He was the exact same. Man, you were obviously sniffing a bit well at the Scottish talent as well.
Yeah, but I mean, he was dreaming, I think, of coming to Rangers at some stage in his career. But no, he was fine. And I think when you go to a club like I came to Rangers, you have a feeling about it. You think, yeah, I fancy that. I really do. If you've got a choice, obviously it's great. I didn't have a choice. I had Rangers. It was either Rangers or not. And I just had a feeling, and I think same with Fergie. Once you get that opportunity, and you know how much Rangers would mean to Rangers fans, so you've just got to weigh it up and make a decision, and he did that.
It's brilliant. Great times. I mean, you were back up at Ibrox. I've got in here 30th of October against Kilmarnock. We talked about this off camera, but this was for a lot of the work that you do with the Veterans Day as well. Could you tell us a bit about your experience?
The badge here, Combat to Coffee. It's a community company down in Ipswich, and we came up for the medals to matches, and it's for veterans. It sells coffee, some excellent coffee from Brazil, which is very nice as well, which is a bonus, because otherwise, you can't promote a product that's absolute crap. So it's really nice. But the main thing is the message is, have a brew, have a coffee or whatever you want to drink, and then it opens a conversation. And it's about veterans that don't have the conversations; they just keep it all in themselves. And it's hard to get them out to talk about PTSD, to talk about their troubles, to talk about living a normal life as much as possible, getting coping mechanisms and all that sort of thing. And this was what we used to do to our son Chris. And I've got a lovely picture of Chris in his Rangers kit, full kit, coming to the games and all that sort of thing. So he loved Rangers, but it hit a nerve, a point with me that I want to put something back in and want to help. And for me, I wanted to start a charity for Chris, but it was just too complicated. And in the end, we thought, well, this is the nearest that we can do this. And I became patron of Combat to Coffee, and I'm very proud of that. And we've worked now and put, got some outreach workers that can come and talk to the veterans, and I mean in particular talk to their families, because our family went through hell really with Chris, because he had a different persona with PTSD, and he was in a severe and complex PTSD. So it was always going to be a struggle for him. And when he passed away, we wanted to do something. And we do medals to matches at Ipswich. We go along there. The club gives us tickets, and we go along. We get pipers. We had 5-6 pipers last year to go along, and we come and pipe. They pipe us in, which is brilliant. Yeah, it's an incredible feeling. And then we go and watch the game. We go to the pub first, and then we go and watch the game. But it's about getting people out there. And every year we've got new people coming along that have PTSD, and they haven't sort of ventured out a lot. They don't experience.
An illness, it makes it so difficult, because it's an illness. Natural, I think your thing to do is the armour, shrug it off and things. And you've got to talk. I can't emphasise it enough. And there's
you got to talk. You got to get help. And the first step is having a coffee, and then the next step is talking about it, and the next step is getting a meeting and talking to people. And it's just opening up, because the veterans with PTSD, they want to hunker down. They want to stay in their own rooms. They don't want to venture anywhere. But there's a lot more charities, a lot more companies now that can help, and we've got a list of that. We recommend people go along, but we've got our own outreach workers that will go, particularly in Suffolk, down here, Essex, Norfolk. We get them to go along and speak to them and help them. They need help, but they need to start the conversation first. And it's very, very difficult getting veterans with troubles to go and talk. That's very difficult. But once you've done that, then they'll be on the right path.
That's brilliant, Terry. Thanks. That was really nice personal touch there. I appreciate that. If you've got any links or anything, if you just send them to me, I'll put them in the video as well.
Absolutely.
And thing is, if you help one person, then it's worth it.
Yeah, one person, one family. Yeah, we've met so many nice people on the way, and Rangers, I have to say, were absolutely magnificent on the day. It was really special, because it's my club, and I wanted to show the guys how good it is and what it's like. Conal Cochrane, he was just absolutely the best, and we laid a wreath underneath John Gregg, the statue, and we watched the game. Chimiti scored his first goal for Rangers, I think, and they won 3-1. I couldn't believe it. So it made my day anyway. But no, it was lovely.
I don't know what you said to them, but they've sorted themselves out since you came up. They seem to have got
I know. But it's like all the fans around me were just brilliant. It was just, they were talking, chatting, pictures and all that. We went to the Loudon Tavern before and all that. It was just incredible experience. But we do that every year. And we obviously did Ipswich as well, but we do it every year. And thanks to the football clubs that give us the tickets, it's a chance for the veterans to show their medals and be proud of it, because a lot of veterans don't want to do that. They feel that they're not worthy and all that sort of thing. All different things will happen in their minds. But it's great to get them out and say, look, thanks very much for your service, and thanks for what you've done.
100%. Well, thanks very much as well for everything you're doing, Terry. It doesn't.
No, it's an absolute joy. It really is. And the coffee is lovely. I get free coffee, which is nice.
You can send me some of that up, and then I'll put the link up. Right. Always want to be sample. But no, you left Rangers shortly after that. I mean, you got a message, even though you've been up. You got, for anybody that's watching or maybe housebound or that, you got a message for the Rangers supporters and just everything the club means to you.
Yeah, it was. I mean, the club is a special club. It's the best thing I did was to come up to Rangers and experience it. I had 4 years, and everything happened in 4 years. I broke my leg. I've got a criminal record. I busted a few doors. Scored a few own goals against Chris Woods. But apart from that, I had a brilliant time. It was brilliant. It was fantastic. But the thing is, we get invited back to go and speak to the supporters and go and then to mix with them as well. And that is a really special thing for me, because I mean the players would never do that sort of thing now. But you can mix with them, and everybody's got a story, particularly about Rangers. They all You know, remember when we played and supported Rangers for this and all that, all the different age groups and everything else. But I remember we used to go to supporters clubs after games on a Saturday. We'd go there because they would, vote for their player of the year, and I won a few, so I used to go along. Sometimes did 3 in a night, and that was the day when they had these cameras with the bulb flashes. Remember those?
Yes,
My eyes took a right battering that day, and also you could smoke in the venues, and you coming back covered, like you're sober because you'd been driven everywhere, and you had your eyes popping out, and you stunk of smoke. But I mean, apart from that, it was brilliant. But just to go along and mix with them and speak to them and all these kind of things, and it was just, I mean, they don't do that now, and they should do, I think, because it's a real valuable part of the job, and it's a really valuable part of the club. So, you've only got two things at a football club. You've got history and you've got the fans, and everything else changes. So, you've got to look after your history, as Rangers do, and all the clubs do, and you've got to look after your fans. They're the two main things.
Brilliant, thank you. And do you, what do you perceive for the league then? How do you see Rangers doing this season? They've got the finger out, we were saying, but seem to be on good form. Danny Rose doing well, eh?
Yeah, he's done very well. I think he's very pragmatic. He knows what he's got. Even in the transfer window, it's always going to be very difficult getting quality cheap, or at a reasonable price. It's not so much this window; it's the summer window that you'll really be judged on. So, but if you can get a couple of nuggets coming in and they continue to keep improving as they are, I mean, he's changed the system around. He can vary his system as well. I think the players are very comfortable with him, and he's much more comfortable with the players. It's still a squad that is challenging for the title, but you sort of think, well, can they, how much better can they get? And they have done very well. I mean, they haven't done that well in Europe, sort of thing, but there's been 1 or 2 games where they've been very, very good, and they're on they've had a good run in the league, and they've got themselves in a position where they are challenging, which you never thought that would happen, particularly when we came up in October. So he's done a really good job. And I like him. I like him a lot. I think he's a decent guy, and I think he's very honest and just says what he says, and you just get on with it.
Very interesting to see how the season goes. But from there on, you moved to Coventry. It was 400,000. You spent 2 years at Coventry, but you only played 6 league games, I believe. Was that? Were you injured?
Yeah.
Or was that
yeah. My knees were knackered. My knees were knackered after the World Cup, and I came back to Rangers, and I had a knee operation, and I was told that they're really poor, wear and tear, chasing after these fast strikers in Scotland, I think it was. No, but so yeah, I was player manager, and I was trying to do a Souness, and like Souness, it's an impossible job. You just can't do it everything properly, really. So I ended up just really sitting more on the sidelines and just trying to learn my trade, my craft, because I was 31 when I went to Coventry as a player manager in the first division, which was like the Premier League, which was bizarre. And I've done no badges. I didn't do any qualifications. I was really a virgin sort of thing when you look at management. But I tried to implement Bobby Robson's philosophy and what he did, because I was with him for 14 years. So he tried, and we changed the squad around, and then a new board came in, new owners came in, and when new owners come in, they want their people at the helm, and so I got bombed out. So yeah, but these things happen. But I was 1 minute an inexperienced manager, and the next minute I was experienced.
Yeah. But then you joined Sunderland as player manager. You got loads of games when you went there.
No, but I was a player first, and then I became the manager, and I thought, well, maybe I can still play. I'm sort of registered, but I didn't really make any appearances, and I was dealing with that. That was a great experience. I was so pleased for them to get in the Premier League this season. But it was a brilliant club, and the clubs I went to, Coventry and Sunderland, they were lovely places, lovely people. We changed the squad round. I actually was manager of Coventry when we beat Nottingham Forest, and then Brian Clough was the manager. We won 5-4. We went 4-0 up, and then they got to 4-4 in the second half, and we got a winner to make it 5-4. It was an incredible game. It was an incredible game.
No,
no. So the thing was, it was in the Brian Clough's teams. He's won 2 European Cups. So it was for me, it was a real feather in my cap. And he never came in for a drink afterwards, which is unusual for him. So I don't think he was very happy. But like Kevin, there was a player called Kevin Gallagher. Played for me. He was up front. Yeah, he was lovely.
Keeper to Blackburn, eh?
Yeah, Blackburn. Yeah.
Come back,
so Kevin Gallagher. But it was a good experience. And then I got the sack at Sunderland, and it was a bit of I was floating. I didn't know what I was going to do after that. And then we eventually took out we bought a hotel in Bridge of Allen, and I became Scotland's equivalent to Basil Fawlty. So that was another experience.
Bridge of Allen's a beautiful place. I'll put pictures up when we're chatting over the top of us, but it's absolutely beautiful. I mean, it still looks pretty similar, to what it was like even when you were there. It's got the bridge and beautiful water and everything. You have a great time up there as well, eh?
Oh, it was a lovely place to live. There were a good few Rangers fans there. The Rising Sun was a brilliant pub. We used to go down. Jim Ingles was the owner, and he was a Celtic fan, so that was quite good, interesting. But it was great, and they're lovely people there. And you're right in the slap bang in the middle of Scotland, and you can get anywhere. It was great. Glen Eagles was up the road if you wanted to go there. Edinburgh and Glasgow were the same distance apart down the motorways. It was lovely. Really, really enjoyed it, and it was good to go back and sort of play your part of in the society as a hotelier.
Yeah. I could imagine. But you just have to do it. You never had back in your day, and when I was watching football when you were playing. See, when your career ended, you were like, right, you better find something to do then. See, now they've all got perfect pathways, and again, that kind of the perfect pathways that they've got and options that they've got available now is brilliant.
Yeah,
because you see players by the wayside because they had from going from there to there. It must be so difficult, eh?
Well, yeah, it's difficult, but it helps when you've got a barrel load of money, to be honest. So you don't have to work. You can do what you want to do. But yeah, a lot of them, some go into the punditry side, which I've done that and enjoyed that very much. Particularly radio. I've got a good face for radio. So no, if you want to be a coach, you've got to do your badges now and do your license and everything else like that, which is great. And coming to the Scottish FA. There's the best in the world when it looks, when teaching you, particularly get a pro license where you can coach anywhere in the world. They're very good. Jim Fleeting was an excellent host and an excellent instructor. And we did that, and I enjoyed that. Ironically, I was with Derek Adams, me and him, and we're partners in the group that we had. And we were big rivals with Ross County and Inverness. So that was quite good. But I did have Derek as a player when I was manager of Motherwell. But I went back after the hotel. I went back sort of thing to being like a youth team coach and then a reserve coach. So I've did it the opposite way to what most people do, and then eventually got my qualifications, and then I can go anywhere. But it was great. And the thing about when you're down in England is people don't actually recognize that you've actually been a manager. They always say to me, well, did you not fancy management? And I said, well, yeah, I had 500-600 games as a manager, but they don't seem to understand it. But yeah,
you mentioned Motherwell there, right? And I actually had shot Arvaladze on, and he talks about a moment when you were the Motherwell manager 21 years ago. You're looking at, and Motherwell took points off of Celtic and Rangers won the league, and Arvaladze was talking about it, and he says even now, he says it was the most surreal experience ever. But I mean, for you to be involved in that with your whole background with Rangers and everything, I mean, can you take yourself back there? It was Scott McDonald that scored a couple for you.
Yeah, a big Celtic fan. Yeah, he's back out, and I think he's in the game as one of the directors or sporting director out in Australia, up at Brisbane. Lovely little guy, chunky monkey we used to call him because he was quite strong and he was squat but determined. So I became manager of Motherwell, and he ended up playing for me. He played against St Johnstone at Perth in a cup tie in January, one January. and he came on as a sub. And I was trying to give him instructions, but he wasn't bothered about the instructions. He just wanted to get on the pitch. And he was an Australian, so it could be a little bit difficult. But he got on the pitch and he scored a goal out of nothing. He just hammered this ball and beat the keeper. And then we won 3-0 and progressed. But I thought, wow, what a player, what a little player we had. And we had people like David Clarkson in there.
Yeah.
What was it, Alex Burns as well. Yeah, we had some McFadden. So we had some decent players there. And yeah, and then we got to the end of the season, and we got into the top six because I went there when they were in or went into administration with Derek Black.
Right,
so we managed to get out. Luckily survived being relegated, and then made a couple of signings, even though we were in administration. A couple of free signings, and then we ended up getting into the top six. And playing Celtic on the last game when the Celtic and Rangers were vying for the title. So and then that became Helicopter Sunday. And the Rangers, I love telling the stories about the Rangers. The Rangers fans were just brilliant. And we ended up winning the game 2-1 after being 1-0 down at half time. And we had a depleted squad, so it was a bit of a shadow squad I had. And I thought, well, I don't know what we're going to do here today, but hopefully we won't get beat by too many. That was my own personal thoughts. But obviously when you're a manager, you go out there and just say, give it everything, which they did. And we ended up winning 2-1. And it was just mayhem, absolute mayhem it was, because we wanted to salute our fans. And obviously there was all the talk about when Celtic win the title, what they're going to do. And there was more talk about that than us actually just waving to the fans. And because it was a great season that we had. So in the end, it was a great season, even a better season for us. And, for me, it was special because Rangers won the league. An incredible experience as well. But being at Motherwell was lovely. It was a brilliant place. A lot of underdogs, a lot of people leave Motherwell and Wishaw and all that to go to the Old Firm games. But we had a steady crowd. We had a good crowd. It was a unique stadium with the pitch sloping from one side to the other. It did really well. It what do you say? Fought much more above its weight. And we got a few bloody noses as well from the Old Firm and from the top teams. But we did all right. So that was a sort of culmination. 2005 when Helicopter Sunday came along, and we were in the. I think we got to the top six the next year, but I don't know. But it was great to see the club in so much despair in 2001, and then 2005, 2006 being Premier League or SPL or whatever they call it, regulars. Being in that league, that was nice.
Everybody that's managed all over Europe that I've spoken to, and that they always say that if you can leave the club in a better position than when you joined them, you've done everything right, and left it in good hands for that person to take over.
You like to think you have, and I was there for 5 years, which is, 5 years for a manager is a hell of a lot now. You're looking at not even 5 months. Sometimes you get 5 games, but you've got to give it your all, and you've got to be honest, and you've got to do your very best in terms of getting quality players in, coaching them properly, which was difficult at Motherwell because we had a training ground, not our own training ground, but we used to hire it. And obviously going through administration, you know what rock bottom is. What you couldn't train on pitches. Like Glasgow Green, we used to pay £40, and you trained in between the pitches on the spare grass that was there. You weren't allowed to go on a pitch. You didn't even do any shooting practice or crossing or patterns of play. It was jumpers for goalposts. It was incredible, but we did all right from it. So once you've been rock bottom, the only way is up. And when you do climb, and when you do get the facilities and etc., and the money, you then appreciate it even more. And our players did that. They were a great group of players, Stephen Craigan's and all these people.
Honest pros,
David Clarkson. No, it was. We sold Faddy to Everton, and we sold Stephen Pearson to Celtic. And we accumulated something like 1.8 million, and that enabled us then to pay something like either 25p or 35p in the pound to the creditors, which you never hear of that now. You never hear of that.
Imagine if that hadn't happened.
No. So I've gone through virtually every experience you can have as a player and as a manager and as a pundit and all. I mean, it's I wouldn't say it's a glittering career; it's an eventful career. Put it that way.
It's definitely no. I mean, there's not even. I mean, you've chatted about this we've chatted to me for over an hour, which I really appreciate. But we've spoke a lot about your international career and your World Cups and all your different experiences. But what I'd like to ask, right, just which manager would you have loved to have played under at any point in your career, whether past or present? Who would you really like to have worked under?
Well, Bobby Robson was the best ever. You couldn't have had a better. You couldn't have had a better mentor, a better personality. As I played for him since 1976 to 1990. An incredible guy, an incredible person, and I owe virtually everything to him because he believed in me. He always used to say to me, Butcher, because he never called me by my first name. It was normally Effin Butcher or something like that. And he says, whenever I pick you for the first team, my first team, he said, you never ever let me down. And when someone says that to you, your chest goes up, and you're like, wow, I'll go through brick walls for you. And we invariably did sometimes, or over them when we were getting drunk in all the places that we went to.
But he was the best manager you worked under. Is there anybody you would like to have maybe just?
I'd love to have played under Sir Alex Ferguson, I think, because he would, I know I've got a sort of winning mentality, but he would make that even better. And I think he would. The object of people, of managers and coaches, is to make people better, make players better. And I think that he could have made me better. And I never ever say that I did well, or I was good at this and good at that. I never say that. I was lucky to get the opportunity to play. But I think when you play under Sir Alex, we would have enjoyed it even more, because he was to the point. He was sometimes brutal, but you got a feedback straight away. You knew where you were, and he believed in you. And he was so much like Bobby Robson. I mean, Bobby Robson invited Sir Alex Ferguson to come and watch us train at Ipswich when we were playing. This is on the Tuesday, and we were playing Aberdeen, Sir Alex's team, on the Wednesday. So the training session before we played them in the UEFA Cup first leg at our place, there was Sir Alex standing on the sidelines. We couldn't believe it as a team. We were like, what's he doing there? And Bobby invited him along. No, you wouldn't get any other manager that does that. I think that's why Sir Alex loved him as well, because he was just honest with him, open with him, and just say, he treated a fellow manager and as a coach as an equal. And that was what he was.
Brilliant. Could I just ask then, just as we round up, you've been asked it before, and it depends where we're at, but the best 11, you put yourself on a team with 10 other players that you've played alongside, the best sort of 11 players. You can do 4-4-2, I usually say, yeah.
Oh, right. For me, Peter Shilton in goal.
Best goal.
Yeah. Right back would be, I think, Gary Stevens. Of Rangers.
Rangers as well.
Yeah, because he was, what an athlete he was. I think he had 3 lungs, not just 2. Centre half would be Des Walker, because you never beat Des Walker. He was quick as lightning. I wouldn't put me in there, but I would put Kevin Beattie at Ipswich. He was one of my heroes.
Okay,
he was strong, and he could climb and jump and quick. Oh, he was an animal. And left back would be Stuart Pearce. Not because of his football, but because he liked the Stranglers, like I do. Midfield. I'd have Chrissy Waddle on the right. I'd have David Cooper on the left. Gaza and Brian Robson in midfield. And up front, it's a difficult one up front. I'll definitely have Paul Mariner of Ipswich. And that's another one. Second, who would I have second? I'd probably have either Ali McCoist or Gary Lineker up front.
Yep, it's not a bad combo. Would you be the manager then? If you're not playing, would you be the manager?
I'll be sub.
You'll be that one sub.
I'll be sub. But no, yeah, I was very lucky to play alongside George Best. That was in one of Bobby's. I think Bobby had 2 testimonials, and he actually told us who was going to be the Miss World 1, 2, and 3 the next night. So the boys had a big bet on it. So thanks, Georgie.
He's unreal, eh? What a character, eh? But no, listen, Terry, thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to chat with you. We'll end it on that note, and let us say if everybody enjoys it, they could like, subscribe, etc. And thanks so much, Terry. Thanks very much for the opportunity just to chat with you, man. You're a legend.
No problem. But